back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Don't worry, be happy now.
Well, we hit the right note with that one. Dr. Paul Zickler is the medical director of YesWellness.com and a big fan of Don't Worry, Be Happy. Obviously, he just lit up like a sign when Bobby McFerrin hit the airwaves a second ago. Our thanks to producer Dwayne Bishop for that little gem. I'm Sterling Fox, and on this episode of Boomer Life with Dr. Paul Zickler, we're talking on this Christmas week about, the stress of the holiday season. It's not the most happiest part of it all, Dr. Paul, but it is real. And Dr. Zickler brought this list with him today of tips to prevent holiday stress and depression. Item number 1 was acknowledge your feelings. Item 2 was reach out. And we've arrived at number 3, Dr. Paul. Tell us about what you mean by be realistic.
Well, we're already in December 21st, so there a lot of the things we're talking about probably should have been done at the beginning of December, but now
we're in last minute mode here.
Exactly. But just as we were talking off air in terms of your traditions in your family, I think they have to be dynamic, and so the things that your mom and dad or your grandparents did don't necessarily translate into things that you do today. And some of the things that you drop off, and if we start feeling guilty, we don't do this anymore.
Right.
Job, that's really, I feel bad about that. Really, we shouldn't. It's whatever is meaningful for you as a family is that you have developed. And so the things that I've developed with my children that we did year after year, and they don't translate into what my grandchildren are going through with their parents.
Right, because they're doing a different
that's
scene.
Right. And it's really kind of neat, when we go and visit some of the parts of our family that we don't get together with all the time here. Right. When we go to visit them, they've got new traditions that we're taking part in, and it's really I really find that really neat, and it really keeps the holidays very vibrant and new. So don't be afraid to develop your own rituals, and just because you do it this year, it doesn't mean you have to do it next year.
Right. So be fluid and be a little flexible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It isn't all. Just because we used to do this back in the 1930s and 40s. Yeah. This is the way it has to be. Yeah. It's the way that it used to be, and elements of it will always be carried forward.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be exactly note for note the way it was 30, 40 years ago.
The love and happiness is the one that's going to keep it going for. All the things going. That's a common thread.
And getting the right notes from 30 and 40 years ago is never a problem at Christmas time because of all those great songs.
That's exactly
the words
right.
never change and the music never does either. And thank goodness for that, right?
Well, and that's really. I know we've got all these things that we're talking about in terms of sort of the things that we want to achieve, but on the brighter side, just with the song, that happiness and hope and optimism. These are things that are really of benefit to you. And those metabolic messengers that we keep alluding to, those hormones that affect us in such a drastic way, can be changed. So the stress that you're feeling, if you can incorporate these things, whether it be going out with friends, specific friends that you've really felt highly of, whether you do some volunteer work, whether you have that conversation with that person on the train and get to know them a little bit in terms of what they're facing this Christmas time.
Sure.
Having that 10-second hug with somebody meaningful or someone that you don't even know. But
now, what was it you told me about the 10-second hug in terms of its medical value?
That's really important because it changes those metabolic hormones and makes them being beneficial. So the stress, which is making all the changes that are on the negative side, having really bad effects on your immune system, your energy, and your levels, your mood levels, changes just by the 10-second hug. That 10-second hug might be someone that you know. It could be your pet. Mm-hmm. It's somebody where you're exuding good things.
But it's funny because you see someone, and you see you're a doctor, for crying out loud. I don't know if I'm telling you anything new, but you see people embrace especially you haven't seen somebody for a while, and you have big hug and all the rest of it. So how are you? Well, I'm feeling much better now, thank you. Boy, that felt good. I needed that hug. And people will say that. It's that instant, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, what the thing is, it's like giving a toast. The eye connection is the most important.
Right.
With a hug connection, it's the same thing. A hug is meant to be a hug with feeling, not a hug because you have to hug. And, you know, there's a difference.
Right. Are endorphins those hormonal messengers that you were talking about?
Though they're part of the system, the endorphins and the dopamines that affect your pleasure centers.
Okay.
But it's a whole cascade of those metabolic messengers that we always, which affect us always, and including what we eat and what the exercise we do and all those things. It is those hormones that are the metabolic messengers that affect us in this way.
Interesting. And as we continue down our list of Dr. Paul's tips to prevent holiday stress and depression, this one's interesting, and it requires a fair bit of courage in some cases. You just talk about setting aside differences, and if there was ever a time of the year that human beings are encouraged to do this, it's certainly Christmas time, isn't it?
Absolutely, and this is where, you know, right now we're in the middle of it, and some of it you may not be able to change now,
right?
Seeing as the 21st, but you know, for next year, you know, try to, you know, really accept certain members of the family or friends which you know are a problem, but there are also situations where there are friends that really they are negative to your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But you keep that up for whatever reason that you have in your head. You know, it might be time to say, I don't think I need that person anymore.
Right,
I'm going to fill my life with people that make me feel good. And similarly, if you understand situations of family members and know ahead of time that this is going to happen, deflect them. Get somebody else to do certain things. Get planning. If it's a dinner and everybody, the dinner host is exceedingly stressed out, and
right.
get together with everybody else that's coming. Listen, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Oh, this is all you have to do, but we're all getting together.
Well, this is a time of year when organization goes a long, long way because everybody has a little bit of something to do, contributing to the greater effort.
Exactly.
So no one person is saddled with all the work.
Yes. So you're planning ahead, and that's really important.
Now, here's an item. Now, it took us 5 items to get to this one, but I'm willing to bet you, Dr. Paul, this is probably the big one on this list. Item 5 is stick to a budget. If there's anything around Christmas time that makes us more stressed out than anything else, it's money or the lack thereof.
Well, so it's interesting. We talked about the emotional budget. You know, you've got to rein in your emotional budget.
Budgeting your emotions, absolutely.
Exactly. Now the next situation is sticking to a budget in terms of the financial stress of Christmas. And you know, I've seen with my peers and their children, they've gone a long way to solving this problem. So for example, in our family, we don't give presents to everybody that's in sort of our peers or my age group.
Okay.
No more presents. Within the family, we're given one person, and that person is giving one person's name.
Oh, right. Okay.
All right, so you only have one present to get.
Right.
And then also I understand some families put a budget that it can't exceed a certain.
Okay, you reach into the jar, you pull out a name, and that person you buy a $25 present for, or something like that.
Something like that.
Right.
So
okay.
You've reduced the amount of time. I'm sure you remember the times with your children when you were wrapping presents for 3 children.
You know,
right? And you're up all night.
The 3 most hated words in my vocabulary: some assembly required.
Yes.
Usually at about 11:30 on Christmas Eve, and you're out there with a thing of screwdrivers
and you're missing the parts.
Oh, just not a fun part of the. So
yes.
I always paid the extra $10 and got the guy to put it together at the store.
Right. All right. You can remember when you're working and listening to stories at Christmas time. When I was working in the emergency department, one Christmas we had rented a place up at Whistler, so I had to rent a van to bring up all the presents for my 4 kids, and you know all the the luggage and the bags and everything.
Yeah.
My wife drove up in the car, and I had to the day before Christmas, Christmas Day, but I had to be back at work in the evening of Boxing Day.
At Royal Columbia.
Right. So I drove up there at the last minute, spent Christmas Eve playing outside, and then all Christmas Eve night I was putting things together.
Some assembly required.
Yeah, you're right. So then you get up in the morning, and then they play, and then it's getting ready for Christmas, and then it's Christmas night, and then in the morning of Boxing Day,
right,
I'm getting the van ready to leave.
Right.
And I ran out of gas.
Oh man!
In Squamish on Boxing Day.
Not a lot of activity.
Talking about Christmas happiness, right?
Oh boy!
Yeah, so those are the kinds of things you'd want to avoid, right? Of course.
Right, and sticking to a budget. I mean, money woes are constant, and people, I think sometimes hurt themselves at Christmas.
Yeah.
You're a grandpa, and you just want to get all those little squirts something nice,
yes,
and you want to give, and maybe for the right reason, maybe not. But if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be giving it.
Yeah, and that's where you're planning ahead, and everybody's in the same boat. It's not just you or I and the grandparents. It's the parents and families. We're all under a lot of financial stress. So discussing that ahead of time really helps us
and
solve
sticking
that
to it.
And
That's the tough part, but
yeah,
sticking to it. Plan ahead. This is an item number 6 on Dr. Ziegler's 10-point tips to prevent holiday stress and depression. Number 6 is plan ahead. It seems fairly self-evident, but a little planning goes an awful long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is your organizational budget.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yes, and we alluded to it before, and trying not to fit everybody and every activity in. And so there are certain things, like, for example, there is a Christmas concert that the whole family goes to, and we pick and choose one every year. It's not the same one every year.
Right.
It might be singing along with the Messiah at the Bell Theater, or it might be something downtown.
Or the pantomime in White
yeah,
Rock.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So,
it's one item that we all go to, and we plan ahead. And similarly with all your Christmas parties, there are things that, or one of my favorites is baking cookies with Oma. So you bring all this stuff, because she used to do it all together, all by herself.
Right.
And spend several days cooking cookies for everybody and giving them away for Christmas. Well, she's beyond that now, but she still loves to oversee and take part. And so we bring all the ingredients, and we bring the grandkids, and we spend an afternoon baking cookies.
Right.
And that's Christmas. Right, and it's fun. You're sharing, you're loving, you're hugging. Those are the good things.
All right, and not too much sugar in those cookies too, right?
Oh, they're all right if you keep them in perspective.
You see, it's that time of year, friends. Even the good doctor has too many cookies at Christmas time. I'm Sterling Fox. You're listening to Boomer Life on CIL 650 with Dr. Paul Ziegler, the medical director of YesWellness.com, with lots more still to come.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.